I got a birthday gift, and
Oh, sweet.
I read my phone. Oh, actually, I'll wait to talk till we get on the air. Oh.
Well, we're on the air. So, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Face the Truth with my guest, Jon Shefsky.
Max Hedrick. Shefsky.
Shefsky. This is off to a great start already. Anyways, this guy is he's a funny dude. He likes to talk about houses. It's really crazy. I don't know why. We're gonna get into that. I was on his podcast a while ago. It was so much fun. Probably one of the most funnest times I've ever had on a podcast. Most funnest. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So everyone, please welcome Jon Shefsky.
Yeah.
Woo.
Is Lionel Richie or acid? I don't know. I love it.
So anyways, well, thanks for joining me, man. No, but seriously, like when I was in, what was it, September, I think, when I was in Pasadena, you invited me to come on your podcast, and it was so much fun, man. Like we just, talked some shit for like an hour or so, and it was so fun.
Oh, you're a pro podcaster, man. Like, so it was crazy for me because, in my world, it's easy to just ask comedians and be like, hey, come do this podcast. Everyone's down. But to ask someone like you that's like such a rad like artist and just, a world traveling artist, and you going, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, what? Oh, shit. I better, put on my Sunday best. He's coming over, folks. Like, it was pretty crazy. So.
No, I had fun, man. And yeah, I try to pretend to be a comedian sometimes. So like, I feel like it works okay,
You are a comedian, dude. There's specific skills in comedy, right? There's like an actor comedian. There's a social commentary. There's the friggin' what do you call it, stand up and all that. But you're a comedian, dude. You're a hilarious dude.
I'm having fun with it, man.
Are we allowed to talk about the Marlon thing?
I don't really. That's fine. Yeah.
Like I love like novel, like just comedy in life. Like when somebody makes like real the surrealness of life and makes it funny, dude. And so your interaction with Marlon Wayans begging you to do his portrait and almost creeping you out, like he's a celebrity. And so initially you're like, oh sweet, dude, this guy's communicating with me. And eventually you're like, this is getting kind of weird. I'm getting these texts and I'm like, does this guy have something better to do? And the way you're handling that, I guess I'll let you tell it because I don't want to take that wind away. It's so funny. You should tell it. It's so funny.
No, I mean, it is weird. I mean, nothing against the guy, but it's very strange.
Yeah, I'm not judging his soul and his journey.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like I think the funniest thing about it is that I think I'm on episode. I think this is 66 maybe, or something like that. So I've only been doing the podcast for about a year, and he's the only person that's asked to be on my podcast, and it was. And I was shocked by it because he's a huge celebrity, and I'm a fan of his movies, and I was like, "Is this really Marlon Wayans? This is fucking crazy." And then he is the one that let me know he was going to be in Chicago and to meet him downtown at the Ritz, and I went and we did the podcast, and it was the most awkward podcast I've ever done because again, he's the one that wanted to do it, but then he didn't seemed like he really wanted to be there, and he was tired, and he cut it from an hour to 20 minutes. He insulted my tattoos.
That's just part of having tattoos, right?
He said they were terrible, and how can you be an artist and have such terrible tattoos? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. And it was just awkward, and I tried to like talk and relate, and everything just kind of went in weird places. I tried to at one point I tried to tell him a story about Kanye West because I met him once before, and he said he met him, so I was like trying to like tell a story, but I couldn't even get to the story because he cut me off and said my Kanye impression was terrible, and I'm like, I wasn't doing a fucking Kanye impression, man. I'm trying to tell you a story. So the whole thing was just
in a fun way, though. He was saying it like in a rude, like, "Hey, who the fuck do you think you are doing that Kanye impression?
Yeah.
That sucked. I'm a pro comedian."
It was just awkward, but whatever. I'm grateful. He was nice, but it was weird and it was strange. And and afterwards he just beelined it. He was super tired and everything. I can understand that. But then right away I get like a message from him saying, "Hey, you should draw me." And I'm like, yeah, maybe one day, man, maybe, But before that, actually, the funny thing is actually even before we did the podcast, he wrote me out of the blue. This is after I did a podcast with JD Witherspoon. And I think they're friends or something like that. So that's how he was aware of my podcast.
Yeah.
And he wrote me and said, "Hey, have you ever drawn me before?" And I was like, "No, no, I haven't." And he seemed to be a little shocked by that. And then everything, skip ahead to what I already said. So basically, ever since the podcast, every like month or so, he'll write me and he'll be like, "Hey, bro, did you draw me yet? You should draw me." And I try to explain. I'm like, dude, I am like a professional illustrator. I'm working on deadlines for Time Magazine and different things like that. And with my free time, I'm with my kids and I'm trying to do stand up now. So I'm like, I'm a busy dude. I don't have tons of free time. Plus, I do this podcast and everything. So then recently, I watched this documentary, or not documentary. This great show. It's called "Are You Dying?" I'm Dying Up Here.
Yeah, it's very similar to a documentary, but yeah, it's a narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, but really, I loved it. It's a really, really great show. Eric Griffin's on it. Andrew Santino, really well written.
Yeah.
I wish that it would have been way more than one season, but awesome. Anyways, I had done a drawing of Eric Griffin like maybe 5 months ago.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I've already shared it,
So
but
good.
I figured, I want to share it again and just say, "Hey, man, I just watched this show. It's great. Everyone should watch it." So Marlon takes a screen grab of that. And then sends it to me in a message, and he's like, "What the fuck? What, you're drawing Eric Griffin and not me? What's up with that, man?" And then he said, "SMH," which I don't know what that means. That is shaking my head or
yeah, maybe
so much hate or
seriously, man, how could you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what it meant. All I know is what. So I explained. I'm like, dude, I'm like really busy, and I even said like, I'd be happy to do an illustration for you if that's what if you need one for something. We can talk about it. You can hire me to do an illustration.
Yeah, you
other
got the
than
cash,
that,
Marlon. Like, just cough up some change. I said I'm busy. I'm a pro. Yeah. Like, hire an artist to do a painting, fucking king.
So, and it's funny too because then I of course sent it to Eric Griffin just as a I'm like, "Hey, check this out, man. This is so funny." And he wrote me back and he's like, "LOL, that's hilarious." And he's like, "I'm a friend of his. That's really funny." And then he goes. And then Eric Griffin actually wrote me and said, "You should tell him you'll do a drawing if he does the Eric Griffin podcast." So, anyways, I decided what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do a drawing of his brother, Damon Wayans Jr.
This is where the funny part comes in, where I'm like, "Dude, you are a comic. This is so funny." Sorry.
So yeah, I did a sketch of his brother, and I'm just gonna post that. I'm just gonna post that and just see what happens.
And don't say anything like, "Marlon, check this out." Like, just completely, just like in its own lane, just post it. I love it, dude.
I'm just gonna
that's comedy. That's the kind of shit that that's the prankster, fun, dry humor of life that gets me through this crazy planet we live on. Should we do a shot? You're already drinking your Jesus juice.
Oh yeah. Cheers.
This is a Mexican shot glass from my buddy Tonio, who's from Mexico and brought this back last time he visited his family. Cheers to Tonio, l'chaim to Jason, and Marlon. We love you, dog.
We love you, Marlon.
Oh, man, I want Marlon to come to Fantasy House now, dude, and bug me. Marlon, why haven't you sent me any texts about Fantasy House?
Just don't do any Kanye impersonations.
No, I can't. This is my Kanye impersonation. Kanye never looks happy. I'm always like, "You seem miserable, man."
I can do like I can do Donald Trump pretty well. I think that's pretty. I do some. I can do like certain impersonations, but
you ever do it with clients when they ask you who to draw? You're like, "Well, I'd love to draw Donald Trump," and then do like a impression of him.
No, but like I did this stupid video. I don't know if you saw it, but like people were. It was funny. I got some weird responses because, they said, "Hey, Donald Trump actually looks like an orange, not a peach." I'm like, you didn't even get the fucking joke. Like it was after he got impeached. I made a video saying, "Apparently, I'm a peach. Okay, I'm a peach."
Yeah, dude.
And I just stupid video like basically going on about like I love peaches. Peaches are fantastic. Okay, and they're like, "Dude, he doesn't look like a peach. He looks like an orange."
He's literally like been like a vacuum to a certain type of person's sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
And for me, all trauma and all craziness, including dealing with fascism, if you want to even go that far, some do. I've always gone the Mel Brooks route. it's like fascism's so ridiculous. It's such a 4-year-old's tantrum that never learn their development age lessons, and the world somehow yes man them all the way up to being a fascist, right?
Yeah.
I just go Mel Brooks or South Park. Like, it's just too funny. You have to make fun of it. But dude, I know so many people that's just like, it just sucked out their sense of humor, and I'm like, it's too crazy not to laugh at this. You fucking, you're sucking the life out of yourself and everyone around you. Like, Donald Trump's funny, dude. He's a good piece of shit.
I follow him.
No offense.
I follow him on Instagram or no, what do you call it? Skype, Twitter, Tweeters.
Skype. If you're Skyping with Trump and me.
I'm like drawing a blank right now. No, Twitter. Like, I actually followed him just because it's so much fun just listening to his, or reading his stupid dumb tweets. And one of my favorite tweets of his, you know what? I'm gonna read it to you because I have it on my phone here, and this thing is so ridiculous. It's nothing political, but I love this tweet because it just shows you the mind of the president of the United States. This is where his mind is at. Okay, so I'm gonna read it. And this is what he says. He says, everyone is asking about how Tiger played yesterday. The answer is great. He was long, straight, and putted fantastically well. He shot a 64. Tiger is back and will be winning majors again. Not surprisingly, Jack also played really, really well. His putting is amazing. Now, this is the best part of the whole thing. This is the president of the United States of America. And this is what he says. Jack and Tiger like each other.
Well, I think the people
they like each other.
That's the level of like communication that like, you got to partition like who, like, I don't hate Donald Trump. He should be like Donald Trump with a reality show. And I can't believe that our country, that enough people, that more than 5 or 10,000 people in our country, I can understand like 5 or 10,000 people because they join cults all the time, falling for his shit. But I can't believe that we're like, here's the keys to the kingdom. Let him drive the boat. Like, I'm like, no. This guy can't be driving the boat, man. Like, it's cool that I don't think he should be like, I have friends that are like, we should be tied up and tortured Inquisition style. He's so evil. I'm like, he's a human being. He had a childhood. He's got his own. He probably is a fun guy to drink with once in a while. But dude, how did he get the keys to the kingdom and get the how's he driving the bus? Like, he's a fucking don't lean on any buttons, Donald. Don't lean on any buttons. Like,
the funniest thing to me about it is that like the Christians that are fooled. The Republic, for some reason, first of all, Christians that think the Republican Party is the Christian party, they're stupid. They're idiots. But secondly, just because he says he's a Christian, it just cracks me up. He says it to get the votes. Why do you think Mike Pence is the vice president? Because Mike Pence is the gayest Christian on the planet.
The more homophobic and weird you are, the more you're like, oh, you're just like not living out your true sexual. He
calls his wife mother. It's like, come on, please.
Well, we all do that on a Saturday night when it comes time to role play. No judgment on that, right, mommy? All right.
Yeah, right, Mom. But like the thing that's crazy is he, like before he was president, I used to enjoy listening to him on the Howard Stern show, talking about orgies and stuff. He was
like a sleazy guy that you just like, dude, I gotta hear what the sleazeballs got to say about stuff.
And then people are shocked that he says that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and no one would do anything about it, and he still gets elected, and it's crazy.
I just going back to some of the conservative stuff that you're going at, because I have friends. I'm not political myself. I think
me neither.
Most politicians are just like, it's like high school style level of intellect and the way that what they're going for. I don't hate them for what they do, but I'm also like, hey, like, I'm not like spending nights going like, please make everything all right, right? But in all fairness, there are conservatives that do have Christian beliefs and are smart people that are not falling for Trump's BS. And in all fairness, for those of us that, like, if you're into comedy, if you're an artist, there's a lot of people that are paying attention to politics, right? I've always had kind of a bleeding heart for things. I care about suffering of intelligent beings. It keeps me up at night since I was a kid. It's been a lot of angst and stress throughout my life of like, well, why is that kid in Africa like starving? Like, shouldn't we go over there right now and save him? Like, just the crazy stuff that you think about around the globe, right? So I've cared about politics to a point where I think it was unhealthy at one point. However, I've met people, especially since I got into real estate, I've met a lot of people that they just work 12 hours a day and they don't spend a lot of time looking into the details of politics.
Oh, yeah.
And in all fairness, even though we can come at this from a side of like, of Medicare for all or everyone should be taken care of and all, these people have been working their ass to the bone. They die young out of stress because they're workaholics, a different personality type with different societal and economic options. which sometimes they think of it as spirituality, that God chose them, but really it's like, oh no, your talent just lies in this thing that we have an economy for. Long story short, those people aren't focusing on a lot of the negative stuff that particular politicians are doing. They're like, oh, they're all bad, but this guy's going to take less of my taxes. And I know people that have worked themselves, and I have close friends who family members have worked themselves literally to death that have died early because they're workaholics. Yeah. And their whole life and their whole focus is an addiction to serving others, making a living for their family. And dude, they have been getting taxed up the ass, and all sides of politics have been reaming them and spending it like it's somebody else's money. So it comes down in a lot of ways. I'm not saying everyone's forgiven. Like if you vote for Hitler, like you still voted for Hitler. However, when people from the far left that can't even understand, oh my God, you're a Republican, you're a Nazi. I'm like, dude, there are a lot of Republican people that are the most charitable people I have ever met and have done things specifically for me, but they just aren't subscribed to a government charity thing. They don't trust giving all their money, and they have seen their families struggle from giving a ton of their money, and then their neighbor is a crackhead, and they're like, how's that guy getting all this free stuff? My dad's working his ass off, dying early, and giving away tons of the money that he makes that he could have used to retire. So it's a much more complicated situation. And there's so much generalizing on every side.
Well, it's just so insane. This is like the first time in my life where politics have seemed so insane, where it's so extreme. It's like you're either like if you support Trump, that means you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, you're whatever else, and it's like whoa, hold on. And then but then the far left has gone so far left that they're just absolutely bonkers. And I'm sorry, but like I'm not really a supporter of Trump at all. I think he's funny. I enjoy drawing him. But he's going to win again. And the reason I know he's going to win again is because the Democrats are just shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again.
Dude, I do not want to be self-fulfilling prophecy and saying who's going to win again, dude. I have family members and friends. I have cowboy friends that are like libertarian that aren't fans of Trump at all. I have kind of like just duped into it, like friends, like I said, that don't pay a lot of attention to politics, and they just don't want to be taxed, and they want business regulations to get out of their life. And I have regular, sensible, liberal friends that are smart and friendly with everyone, diplomatic human beings, you might call them. And I have far left crazy friends that have lost their fucking minds. And I got to say, when I'm around conservatives, even the ones that aren't fans of Trump, they're not like, there's not a lot of argument. They're just like, yeah, like as long as it doesn't go to a crazy leftist. But when I'm around any kind of Democrats, of all my father-in-law is a super Democrat, and a lot of my wife's family is super Democrat. My parents are really Democratic. I guess that's a vague word, but like, and friends that are super leftist, just mad. Ooh, everyone's fault that I'm not happy all the time and everything's perfect. Oh, just, the people that are like mad because you were born white. And you're like, that's kind of racist to be mad that someone's white. Anyways, so I know people of all these circles, but when you're around anybody that's at all leaning at all towards conservative or just generally not crazy about politics, they're all pretty much in agreement. It's like, well, as long as we just get another conservative guy in here and probably going to be Trump, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And if you talk to like liberal people, I don't get the same answer from any of them when we go, who are we voting for? They will tear apart every candidate. Oh, she was hanging out with Christians 25 years ago. She must be homophobic. Oh, he's on Fox News a lot. He's a Nazi. And I'm like, yeah, but these are liberal human beings that like actually like, are anti-corporatist. They really want to stick up for the American public. They care about the world. Oh, no. She said a racist thing once 35 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, we're definitely not going to win this election, folks, because there's no focus on the left at all, from the regular mature adult liberals to the hysterical liberals on the far left. There's no like togetherness of like, well, like anyone but Trump, let's just focus on one candidate. They tore apart Tulsi Gabbard. And I was like, she's the only other like non-corporatist option that we had besides Bernie. Yeah. And she's a veteran, so she's been there, she's served her time, and she's diplomatic. She's smart. She networks with everyone around the world. Like, and they're like, oh no, she's this, and that. I'm like, dude, like you guys can't even agree on, like you have gold in front of you, they can't even agree on it. And probably, I hope not, but I mean, like, there's a big league chance, right, bro? And nothing on that.
Well, the crazy thing is that
let's get political. Neither of us are politic guys.
Well, it's just funny to observe this kind of stuff because, again, like if I ever say anything about Trump's like, oh, you support Trump's like, no, I'm sharing an opinion about something I've observed. So just chill out. And what I've observed is I haven't heard much about Trump in the media lately. Want to know what I've heard? The Democrats just looking like jackasses, arguing with each other and putting each other down and tearing each other apart. And none of them sound good. None of them seem sane. And so that's what we're seeing in the media right now. And Trump's just like, this is awesome.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's like,
people call him dumb. My dad calls him dumb all the time. Like, Dad, you're measuring intelligence by only a couple of the columns. And in those columns, yeah, he's a dummy. Does he have a large vocabulary? Is he a deep thinker even? I don't know. I don't know if he has any empathy for other human beings. I don't know the guy personally, but he's got some sort of emotional intelligence. He knows how, even if it's sleazy, what do you call it? Elixir salesman, car salesman dude, like snake oil dude. He's got that intelligence, and there's a crowd that's buying that shit.
And what's funny, he's got intelligence for certain things, and then other aspects, it's just so hard to watch.
I don't watch much of it. I honestly don't.
The funniest thing to me is like, dude, you know what would be the easiest stand-up right now is if you could do a really good Trump and you were in the right, like in Chicago. Chicago is like so, obviously very against Trump and everything. I could literally go to a comedy club and just like pick out 10 Trump tweets and just memorize them and just do them, and I would kill.
Maybe, but dude, I think
in Chicago,
people are so bored of him. I think my buddy Pat was telling me, he's like, they're like, it's just boring now, right?
But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like that's how comical it is, though. It's just what he says is so he might be smart in certain ways, but like you read his tweets or my favorite thing, the thing that cracks me up the most is when he can't say certain words and he kind of gives up them in the middle of a sentence.
Oh yeah.
Or for example, he'll try to say Oklahoma or something like that, and he'll be like, it's really great to be here in Oklahoma, mama, or he'll just be like, or he'll say, you know what I mean, but he does these kind of things all the time, or just like the littlest thing, like what he did at the Super Bowl, how he like said the wrong state or whatever.
Oh, did he?
Like he congratulated the Kansas City Chiefs, but he said, Kansas. He was like, Kansas is from the great state of Kansas, and he goes on and on, and then people were like, dude, it's Missouri, and then he's like, I meant Missouri. I just love it. I think,
but there's something appealing. There's something appealing psychologically to that like he speaks my language, but at the same time, like it's. Let's take another shot. Antonio's shot glass. Gracias, Tonio, mi amor. This one's going out. Praying for Trump, dude. Don't lean on any buttons, man. Don't launch any missiles or let's keep that ozone going, bro.
Gosh, dude, it's pretty funny. So I have some questions for you. And I wrote. I don't hardly ever write down questions for guests, but I wrote down a few. And I thought it'd be fun to go through, real quick.
Yeah, dude.
Kind of like do almost like a Kevin Nealon style. If you've ever watched Hiking with Kevin, like how he just kind of that. So
love Kevin.
It'll be a fun way to kind of get to know you real quick for people watching. So I'm curious, like, because you do real estate now, and my wife she's like new at it. She's been doing it for the last like 6 months, and it's really slow. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude.
She's like rented a few apartments or whatever, but like
for her. Congrats.
It's a slow process, and but I'm proud of her because she's worked really hard at it. She's really smart, and she's almost 6 months pregnant, and we have a 2-year-old, so she's a trooper, man.
Oh yeah.
Man,
that's
nice. Dude, and she still wants to have fun times, and so I'm very thankful. She's a really good lady. Anyways, what are you doing right now with the real estate? Like, because I know that you started doing stand up.
Yeah.
Like years. Let's go back to that real quick because I'm curious about that.
A really boring biography of an unknown stand-up comedian.
No, here's what I want to know, because obviously when you and I first started talking, I was humoring the idea of doing it. I had no material, and now I'm to the point where I did a show with Steve Byrne, which was crazy. I can't believe I did 2 of them with him, actually.
I know, you were telling me when you were prepping for that. That's super exciting. And
now I'm like going out a few times a week, hitting open mics, and I'm loving it. And I'm learning so much. There was so much about comedy and stand-up I did not know, and now getting into it, it's like, wow, this is a weird world. And
it is.
Comics are so insecure, and they're so
Dude, entertainment in general, dude. It's a weird. It takes all kinds. It's a weird kinds, dude. For sure.
And I'm just enjoying like getting the experience of open mics and it's a weird thing. But I'm just curious from your perspective, because I would like to learn a little bit more about the world from your perspective of it. Like when did you get into it? Why did you get into it?
Oh man, this is exciting. My ego has got a boing, 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 boing. It's like, oh cool, telling my story. Dude, I don't know. I grew up on like laughter got me through a lot. I've been an odd, like I always call myself like a miscellaneous person. Like I've just always been like on the fringe of different stuff and never really focused on anything in particular. Never saw my identity as a career. Like I feel like that's super American, or at least as far as I know, like from my local like community in California, it's very much like you grow up like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right?
Yeah.
So I never kind of fell into that. My parents weren't super like stressing me out about a career and telling me like, you're going to be a baseball player. So I naturally wanted to be like, the stuff when I was a little kid, like a firefighter or an astronaut or an army man or police officer. But I was pretty punk in high school, hung out with a bunch of like wild friends and was just into comedy. Comedy Central came out when I was like, I think 12 or 13. So I'm 39. So that was, in the,
that's about
in the early 90s. And like, they had these really hilarious commercials. Like Jeff Ross used to come on and do this like gangster poetry. And it was just, I remember telling my dad
Jeff Ross was doing it back then already.
Oh, dude, Jeff Ross has been at it forever. Dude.
I mean,
how he looks like Lex Luthor now? Like, he looked like a regular dude back then. Like, yeah, he's been doing it forever. Yeah, he's definitely
man, I didn't realize it was that long ago though. That's crazy. I love that guy.
Oh, dude, fantastic. So, I remember the ad coming on TV because I would watch comedy. This is going way back, but you gave me the mic, so I'm doing this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I'll listen to this later or send it to my dad and make him happy. And be like, Daddy, look, I talked about us. So like when I was a little kid, my dad would watch like not necessarily the news. He'd watch SNL and Mel Brooks movies and Monty Python. And so I would like over his shoulder watch that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when Comedy Central was coming out, there was commercials on like another channel. It was like this new channel is coming out, Comedy Central. I remember telling my dad like, Dad, a comedy channel. So that was like a bond. My dad worked like all the time. He was an engineer. And so like that was like one of those bonds we had, that and some once a year family vacations. Otherwise he was mostly at work and then home tired. So I'd be like, Dad, this is our baseball. Like,
yeah. So that's so funny, man. That's exactly like Monty Python. That's I always think about my dad and I, because that's where I think I get my humor, is that dry British dark humor. Dude. I mean, that's just like, that's everything,
I didn't understand that anything was different, by the way. Like, so like when I was a kid, until I was in my mid-20s, actually my buddy Angelo, one of the greatest comedians that ever lived, Angelo Bowers, told me once, we used to call each other Cream Pie, that Cream Pie, you're an alt comic. You like alt comedy. And I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? And he explained to me how like George Carlin and Bill Hicks and Mitch Hedberg were a different kind of comedy. And I didn't even know it until I was very naive. I still am probably very naive. But even in my like late 20s, Angelo was explaining to me like that I liked like these different forms of comedy, not just one kind of comedy, which I like, because I always just thought it was the same thing, like George Carlin and Mitch Hedberg.
Were you ever annoyed with the kind of stuff that's like, hey, where's my socks? No.
I never annoyed. I love all comedy. However, I've always thought like Brian Regan. I've always thought like,
I love
I love Brian Regan, but I'm like, dude, can you imagine him acting out like a load leaving a dick? Like how funny that would be with how animated and like Jim Carrey he is about stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, what's so great about being so clean? Like, dude, we life is filthy, dude. So I always thought like Jim Gaffigan, if you listen to his old stuff when he was raw, like he's funnier now because he's developed 20 years later he's a better craftsman as a comedian. But I'm like, get back to just being like super raw, because he's so funny.
That would be, imagine that.
Old Gaffigan's so funny.
If he came out with a new set like that, it would just, people would be like, what the? If he's all like there like, what's up, bitches? Even
if it's not just like dirty, like Bob Saget just saying dirty stuff to be dirty, but if it's like calculated, hilarious humor being dirty, like nothing, like you can never, I don't care how many people say Brian Regan's their famous comic, you can never hold that up to me, to like Chappelle, Rock, or Burr. Just being honest about stuff and not being afraid to say the dirtiest stuff. Jesselnick, he's dark too. Sometimes he can make me a little sad. But
I love it, dude.
But dude, so Comedy Central came out and they didn't have their own content. They bought stuff. So stuff that I couldn't see other places, like we didn't have HBO, and Kids in the Hall was on, and Exit 57, Vacant Lot, like all these really cool sketch shows were on. Evening at the Improv, I'm pretty sure they put that on Comedy Central. So you had Bill Hicks, you had George Carlin, like almost nonstop. So that stuff just like made me happy. I never thought I could do that stuff. I was always a goofball, class clown. I hated school, hated authority. and didn't pay attention, and I just made fun of everything because life was ridiculous, right? I learned about the Holocaust at like 8 years old and was just like, okay, what do they call it? Like when you're how you deal with post-traumatic stress, like my coping mechanism was just like, it's just too wild to think it's serious because it's too wild. It's too ironic,
Yeah.
So in my mid-20s, I went with my brother-in-law, saw I was tattooing, and I was having more fun making my clients laugh in my chair while tattooing them, like hysterically making them laugh.
Yeah.
And this was like that free spirit where I never had any intentions of getting into the entertainment industry. So it was so authentically just having fun making people laugh that I don't think I'll ever get back to it. It was the best ever.
So that's so cool. I didn't know that you did tattooing. So how was it being Jewish and tattooing?
Everyone's been in and out of me since the beginning of time. I've done everything I had to do.
But like,
I tattooed.
Yeah. Was it weird?
Or as we say in Israel, Ken.
Yeah. But I mean, tattooing, did you ever have any weird things happen because you're Jewish and you were tattooing people?
I asked my mom cried when I got my first tattoo and like went to the room and cried and like I was like, I did a bad thing.
I have weird things happen to me all the time, and I live literally a block from Skokie, and it's like the second largest Hasidic Jew population next to Israel, I believe.
Really? And
so where I shop at a kosher grocery store. Yeah. And they actually have it segregated. It's really strange. Like it's a regular huge grocery store, but then there's a section that's just kosher. And I remember one time I was in there and I didn't know. I just I was getting some cheese and stuff, and this guy's like, "No, this cheese is not for you." And I was like, I was so confused.
Or religious or whatever.
And that's when I found out that there was like it's like two grocery stores in one, and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." But I've had people come up to me and pinch me because of my tattoos and
like in a friendly way, like
no. Mean like upset, very upset. And
like Hasidic people?
Yeah. Well, so I sort of get scared sometimes. So like I'm going to Israel in May, and I'm like, man, should I wear like long sleeves and a turtleneck? And
ironically, you have to wear a burqa in Tel Aviv. No, dude. I mean, like secular and mature. I mean, this is totally condescending towards super religious people, but why not? Mature people will not treat you differently about that. And yeah, you might have some weird stuff, but like, I went to Israel a while ago, probably at about 25, 26, and I had a ton of tattoos, and I didn't have any.
I heard that there's a lot of people there, especially in Tel Aviv, that are like very westernized. A lot of tattoos.
It's mostly secular. It's mostly secular. I mean, media will blow it out.
I'm more worried about just going grocery shopping here, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I lived in a super Jewy neighborhood in LA for a while, and I don't know. My feelings on it is it's super odd to me, and of course I want people to celebrate who they are, but it's one of those like knuckle dragger things to me where I'm just like, you think God really cares about that petty shit with all the, like, if you're wearing a shirt made by a child slave in another country, I'd be like, that's on your priority list of like, let's solve that world problem. I think God would be like, let's solve that. But God saying like, don't eat ham, but eat, or like factory farming. I think God would be more upset that you're factory farming than you're eating the wrong factory farm. So I'm just like, it seems so petty to be so literal with Torah and Bible and what's the other one? The Quran or all. It's like, guys, like, use your brains. God's probably, if there is a personified God that gets angry, would be like, you guys are really falling for the McDonald's of spirituality, guys. Like, there's more to it. Grow up. But whatever.
As we've talked about this when I was on your podcast. Like I grew up really, really religious, like hardcore, like fundamental Christian, where basically my family believes everything in the Bible, literally, and
like Westboro Baptist level, where you're like, guys, like, there's no guy with a pitchfork, like it's underground. He's not there.
I mean, it's weird because in some ways, because my dad's an amazing artist and he's very creative and everything else, and he's very smart. So I always get really confused about the religious thing. Like it really divides me a little bit, but it's okay. But I got to say, like, when you were talking about the Holocaust, I remember when I was a kid and when Schindler's List came out.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to go as a school to go see it. And my dad came with me. And that was my introduction to the Holocaust. And I remember just being so confused because I believed 100% in God.
Back right now.
Yeah, I was like, I believed 100% in God. And everything that my dad told me and everything that was in the Bible, I just believed everything. And I remember just thinking, like that's when things started clicking in my mind, where I started thinking like, wait a minute, the Jews are the chosen people. That's what the Bible says. They're the chosen people. Yet 6 million were murdered, like brutally, like in the most insane, like you can't even imagine what these people went through. And these are God's chosen people. The rest of us are fucked. Dude, you know what I'm saying? And like,
I mean,
like
we could
that
do a 6-hour podcast just trying to delve into our minds about that.
Oh yeah. And so basically I remember that was like one of the seeds, if you want to call it that, like that basically was planted inside me, that was like, now I started questioning everything after that.
I think that was what made me snap too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Like, this is you know what, humans are just savages. Like,
dude, it's super. So what age were you?
Oh man, I think I was in 7th grade or something like that. Or I mean, I heard of the Holocaust before, but never really understood it. And then when I saw that movie, it was just like, what?
So like, I was like between 8 and 10 years old in the backseat of my parents' car, and my mom and dad were having some discussion. And my dad's a really smart. He's a very stoic, quiet man. Doesn't really talk a lot. My mom is like Michael Scott from The Office. So you can imagine how their relationship is, dude. Like, I'm not kidding. My dad calls my mom Michelle Scott, like as a joke, since we brought this up like 5 years ago. But anyways, so you can imagine their discussions of the Holocaust between a stoic, quiet engineer that says about 5 words a day and my mom, who's just like doesn't know what she's talking about, doesn't know what's going on, asks the silliest questions, doesn't remember the answers. I'm a combo of that, by the way. So I'm sitting in the backseat of the car as a like an 8 to 10 year old, and they're talking about this stuff. My brother's still he's 3 years younger than me, so my brother's a little kid, like five years old probably. And my mom gets out of the car for something. She had to run in somewhere to do an errand, grab something. And I asked my dad what the Holocaust was. Like, I was like, wait, what is the I heard this word. What is this? And he's like, I'll tell you, but you have to promise like not to be upset and not to let it bother you and not to cry, which is like a funny, weird thing. My dad's dad was even more like stoic, and like I'm blessed that my dad was like as gentle and kind as he was, because his dad was like a hardened immigrant that went through, crazy life. So my dad was just trying to be tender, but at the same time, that's how he communicated to me. So of course, being 8 years old, it's like an adult taking a mushroom, being like, no, I'm ready for some answers, and then being like, I wasn't ready for that. That's what it was like at that age. Like, I just told my dad, like, yeah, I'll be good. And then he explained to me what happened in, 5-minute, summary. And he didn't have enough time to even answer my questions. But like, I grew up like a young American Jew that just like every fireman, police officer, army man was the good guy. Everybody else was the bad guy. People, your neighbors, your friends, your community, like everyone loved each other. Like there was a few odd people out that were bad or whatever. But like, that was the simple worldview I had. So like learning about the Holocaust, I immediately was like, wait, the army men were they did what? And then, then I got that, from that age all the way till probably 15 or 16. So a good almost decade and half decade of my life. I don't know. Like I was like that teenager that's like, when you're like learning about serial killers, like I got to read another serial killer book. I got to hear what this weird guy did, like I was obsessed with the Holocaust and genocides and like government, like weird government shit. And it definitely like, it's one of the many like disturbing things you learn about reality is that like, oh, like it's a blessing. And it's like, there's the orgasms and the joys, and there's the puppies and petting a puppy, and there's the being truly in love or being truly in the moment and tasting the best ice cream. And then there's also like people having their flesh ripped off, or like, I'll never forget. I'm sorry. I know that we're both funny dudes, but like this gets dark, but I'll never forget reading about one book where like a Nazi soldier like went into a house to interrogate this Jewish family before they were being shipped off to the ghetto. And like, he picked up a baby out of the crib and like by its legs and like smashed it against the wall and killed the baby, obviously. And like, this is like, I'm 39 now. I still think about that. Like as much as, you praise God, you're like, oh, it's a blessing. Like, this is all, thank you God for this and that. Thank you for this meal. I'm somewhat of a spiritual dude, but yeah, I'm just like, how did that happen? And my only way that I can ever like have peace at that is that at first, for a long time, I thought maybe I'm in some sort of like weird realm, right? Like I'm in some sort of like video game, and all the stuff I'm finding out is like stuff. But like, did it actually happen? Did it actually exist? Like, am I soaking in some like experience right now? And God or some ultimate being is just testing me or just showing me what life is. But like none of my close family had died at this age until older. So it seemed like my parents had cancer. They both survived it. Like I was like, oh, like if you pray, if you're good, if you do this and that, like maybe you really do like make it through these canals and like those bad things won't happen to you. Like they're just, you know.
That's so interesting.
Sorry, so, yeah, go on.
No. This is great.
I get super into it when it gets psychological.
No, I love this. You know, this reminds me of 9/11 because I was, I think, 20 or 21 maybe when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And
the same age too.
Yeah, and up to that point, of course, I was very familiar with history and things that have happened in this world and everything, but none of it ever really affected me. You know, I never had a Pearl Harbor. I never had any of these things in my life, and I didn't pay attention to the news very much, and I didn't pay attention to the different wars that we were in, like Desert Storm or whatever. Like I just kind of, you know, whatever. I was just a punk kid. I was in punk bands and getting tattoos and touring, and you know, just I didn't have a care in the world really. And I remember when 9/11 happened, that, like, I know it sounds cheesy, but my innocence was over after 9/11 because it just woke me up. Like I remember after 9/11 happened, I knew immediately. I was at work, and the first tower was hit. I heard about it. My uncle David worked in one of the towers, and so I was like really like oh my gosh, I was trying to call him and find out what's going on. And then the second plane hit, and I'm like, we're at war. Like this is right away. I knew. And then the Pentagon, and then the plane in that crash, whatever. I was like, dude, we're full on at war. And it was like my innocence was over. And from that moment on, I started watching the news every day. I started listening to the news every day. Yeah. Everything, and I became more aware. I started like drawing political things and started to it just woke me up. It turned me into it was still very much a teenager until 9/11 happened, where I'm like, holy shit, we're not safe everywhere.
Dude, it's such a weird feeling. That was a recurring nightmare I had since I was a kid because of learning about Holocaust, being obsessed with all the morbid stuff and wars, and realizing the difference between culture and reality, you know, those coming of age things was I was always having, and my grandfather was just a super military obsessed old Jewish dude that he was in Korean War, and he was obsessed obviously with Holocaust and Jewish stuff and his community. I was just around a lot of stuff about that. Yeah. I was so afraid of do you remember that as a time cover of that young Vietnamese girl running naked from the napalm and all the.
Oh, dude, I just watched that.
Me so much when I was a kid to think how could we live in a world where we could let any child go through. I mean, an adult going through that is a travesty, but even as a young age, being younger than that girl, seeing that and being like, how could we let that happen to her? She's just a kid.
So
she's
creepy.
Not doing anything that deserves this kind of punishment. How could God, how could governments, how could people? So that tripped me the hell out, dude. So I was always having nightmares, waking up oh God, it was just a dream, of planes flying over, dropping bombs, of everyone being evacuated from their home and murdered for this race or that race or whatever. Just afraid of that stuff subconsciously and just conscious that that exists. Someone does find out oh, my dad said something against the government and he's never coming home. That shit tripped me out as a young age. So getting through that, I went snowboarding for a year after high school. My parents said I had to go to college, and I was like, fuck you, I'm punk. Wearing my Misfits shirt. I'm you guys, I go to college, school sucks. Well, I ended up going to makeup artist school just to appease my parents and be like, that's college, right? That's the kind of asshole that I am. I told you I was going to college. I went to makeup artist school. And
special effects makeup stuff?
Yeah, I went to this place called Blasco.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was a really great journey, but it wasn't any passion I truly had. I didn't know where to point my direction. I loved Star Wars and ILM and all the stuff ILM was making. And really what I should have done is gone to college for miniature scale stuff. My path would be so different. Would I be talking to you though? I'm glad.
You actually look like a young George Lucas. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, in one of my fat business card picture. I've told people that. I'd be like, who do you want to sell your house? Some cheesy suburban freak like a realtor or a young George Lucas? And then I give him my card. Hasn't worked yet. Anyways, if they were with me, they were already with me before that joke. So long story boring, as Brett Ernst would say, I went to Mammoth to live after I did makeup art. I did the schooling and I got a job. I did makeup art for a year, but it wasn't my passion. And like anything in Hollywood, it was super competitive. And so I made really good money though. I remember I paid off my S10. I was so stoked. It was great money, but I was like, yeah, but I'm a snowboarder. So I'm still moving to Mammoth. I made my promise to my parents. I did that. I was like, I'm going to Mammoth. So I lived in Mammoth with a girlfriend that I met at makeup school, my first love, super great times. And we had moved back home. She was going to school. I was going to community college to get my degree in history. And we went back up to Mammoth September 9th to go visit my neighbor, Andrew, who was just a cool hippie dude that lived up there, and do some snowboarding and just chill out in Mammoth. And I woke up that morning to my mom saying, turn the TV on. And we turned the TV on, and it was obviously the news of 9/11. And it was like this weird, like, again, it's I can only relate to like psychedelic experience of just being like your body just like filling with the chemical of like anxiety and change. Like, I've never been in this realm before. Like, what's going on?
Oh,
because
weird.
Like you mentioned Pearl Harbor earlier, and it's like Pearl Harbor must have been a trip to know you're not untouchable in America. However, most of it was military targets.
Yeah.
So you're like,
in Hawaii.
Our base, and in Hawaii too, right?
And it wasn't even, and I don't even think Hawaii was the United States yet at that point. I think it became the United States in the 50s.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay.
I think so. So it wasn't like it actually hit America. It was American targets.
Right.
So like New York.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Even if when they hit American targets overseas, Yemen or whatever else, like, oh, those poor people that were in that boat, and I'm so sorry. And also, I've always been like kind of pretty skeptical of wars, like, why are we over there again? Like, what couldn't we have talked about, or just sent one sniper to just get the one fascist guy? Like, why are a bunch of people dying? So I was always skeptical, but it totally changed me, and it freaked me out, laddie.
So all of this is how you started getting into doing open mics.
This is a 5-hour podcast. This is the Jocko Willink podcast, right? It's 9 hours, 3 parts. Do you ever listen to his show, by the way?
The what?
Do you ever listen to Jocko's podcast? If you like military stuff, or you just want to hear people if you want to listen to people going through crazy stuff. Oh, dude, if you want to hear people going through crazy stuff that makes you go, I can't believe I was complaining about the phone calls I had to make for real estate today. This guy had his arm blown off and saved his whole platoon. Listen to it. It's phenomenal. He's a great interviewer too. Doesn't talk too much like me. Dude, I moved back, we drove back. It was a really weird ride for my girlfriend and I, back down the 395 to Southern California from Mammoth, and just tripping out. And I lived in Chino Hills at that point with my parents. I moved back with them. And within that week, like, we were I super just tripping out. Like, are we going to get nuked next? Like, what's going on? Like, are people are there terrorists just walking around? Are they going to start doing what they do in Israel? Like, just, blowing up buses? Like, are we cool? I remember our power went out one night, and my girlfriend at the time, I have to say that because my wife will listen to this and be like, your girlfriend, babe. I remember I was laying in bed with the power going out, and both just thinking, like, law of average, probability wise, this has to do with 9/11. We're all about to die. It was just the power going out in our town. I mean,
all of downtown Chicago was evacuated on the same day. People thought for sure Chicago was going to be getting hit. So like everyone was just getting out of downtown, and it was just crazy. It was just so surreal, and I remember how weird it was too, that everything was just, do you remember how everything all of a sudden became like pro-America? Like, oh yeah. Like, it was just, I never saw so many American flags in my life.
I remember Chris Rock commenting on it and be like, getting kind of weird, or something like that. It reminded me of the Nazis or something like that. It was like,
it was weird. It was just like, everything was just like, and everyone was like, it was such an extreme time, because I remember right away it was like, everyone's like, just bomb them. Like,
oh, dude,
like wipe them off the planet.
My dad that shit. I was like, Dad, what's going on with this? And my dad, he was an engineer working for Raytheon, so he worked with like radars and bomb stuff and all that stuff. But my dad's like a super peaceful dude, doesn't like war, doesn't want to hurt anybody. I think like many engineers that, right? All the people of history that have had to do crazy shit, right? And I remember my dad telling me like what their plans were for going to war, and I was like, I'm emotionally distraught right now too, but I don't have some sort of, and this might be me and my weird kind of autism, I don't have some sort of primal need to get revenge. I'm like, how do we prevent the next attack and not hurt more Americans or people overseas? Like, but there's that knuckle dragger. It's that knuckle dragger tribe mentality. Like, they killed one of ours, and the only way I'm gonna feel better if I kill one of theirs. Like, you're gonna feel better if a child's body is ripped apart and killed. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't matter what color skin they are, what language they speak. These are human beings. Like, but dude,
I don't know. I've always been interested in it. Like, I have like a weird connection to World War II, because
you're actually 100 years old. I knew it.
Yeah, But I mean, it's very strange because my this is weird. I think it's weird.
Then it's good.
If the Japanese didn't bomb Pearl Harbor, I wouldn't be here because, my grandfather basically joined the Navy.
Saved his butt up for years.
And then my grandmother she survived the Blitz in England. She's British.
Dude, my Bobby survived the Blitz too. Our whole family over there.
Yeah, hiding under tables while her building's being blown apart. Dude. She was 9 years old when that happened.
Holy shit, dude! This is the exact same.
Yeah, so she survived that. She meets my grandpa in Europe. They get married, and then of course comes along my dad.
Got that
so that's a weird connection there. So I've always felt connected with World War II. But then here's the other thing. I think he's my great uncle or my great uncle. I'm not sure. Ralph.
I knew it.
He was one of the scientists on the Manhattan Project. He helped build the bomb.
Whoa!
That blew up Japan.
Dude,
isn't that crazy? Like my great uncle built the bomb. And my dad told me about it when I was younger, and he was trying to explain it to me, and he was basically explaining that they were trying to prove that you couldn't make that bomb. They were trying to, they heard that the Nazis were trying to make something like that, and so they were like, that can't be made, and they're trying to do everything they could to prove they couldn't, and then they made it.
That's funny too. They had the different people have their different. And this is a whole other like giant.
I could be completely wrong about a lot of the details, but
no. But what you just said just reminded me of something else too. Another psychological phenomenon that, since I'm not educated institutionally, I have no name for. But we're all working towards a common goal to build this bomb, and different people have a different idea of why we're even building it, and somebody's going to get what they want, but we don't even actually know who at the time. So your great was it grandfather or
uncle?
Your uncle.
I think it was my dad's great uncle, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'm related to the guy.
Yeah, dude. Well,
yay.
My point being that like he might have been not a warmonger or generally a pacifist, a scientist, as Albert Einstein was. If you ever read any of his works, like he's generally a pacifistic dude. But they're working on it. Some other guys thinking we're just making this to prove to the world that that we've got the strength. Another person's thinking, we're going to blow people up. I can't wait. The carnage is going to show how strong we're. Like, dude, everyone's got these different intentions, but we're all shoveling at the same hill.
And this is how this gets even more ironic. So my great uncle helped build the bomb. Then in the 50s, my grandpa, if you've ever seen those pictures of the guys on the Navy ships in the 50s standing in front of the nuclear explosions, all they have is glasses, and they're at the Bikini Islands.
Yeah.
My grandpa was there through 8 testings, I think, 6 or 8 testings. And that ended up killing him. By the time he was 61, he died of terrible cancer. And it's all his buddies that were there all died of cancer. So ironically, like my great uncle helped build the bomb. My grandpa went through testings, and that killed him when he was 60. It's like, it's crazy. It's such a weird thing to think about, because like when I'm watching these documentaries, I'm like, oh, my grandpa was there. That's why he died when I was in the 7th grade and became severely depressed.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon of all reality.
It's very strange, man. We've gone all over the place on this podcast. I love it though. It's great.
And I apologize to our listeners if they're like, I thought this was gonna be really funny, and these guys got dark and deep. But that's fun. That's the stuff that interests me, is like tangent thought, like in a flow chart. It's like, and you're just like, whoa, and also this, and then how's that? And obviously it's the ramblings of an insane person, but it's also, there's something there. You know what I mean? It's a river of weird thoughts.
You know what? But this is perfect for even what I first was asking about the stand-up stuff, because I think this is what it takes to do comedy, right? Is what I'm very new at this, but I'm finding myself to be very natural at it.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of confidence. I don't know why. I just feel confident. I don't feel like I have anything to lose.
That's it though.
And I just feel like, but all these different things that we're talking about, like I like to find humor in it, and just I like to go in those weird places and just talk about it. And that's really what, how many of my ideas that I talk about when I'm doing my stand up right now are things that just came out by talking with someone. I'm like, oh, that's fucking funny. And then I try to like
pay attention now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, and that's what I was going to ask you, is like when you did it, is like what was your sort of approach to it, and then we got to look at some artwork in a little bit. But
Well, my brother-in-law, who's a hilarious dude, so he's like if he would have focused on stand-up, he would have been like, I feel like he would have been like on SNL. He was just like a really, and I don't mean that as a compliment to SNL. I just mean like he could play characters and and whatever else. But him and I saw Nick Schwartzen at the Irvine Improv, and while we were there, they were handing out flyers for a comedy class. And so we both grabbed these neon yellow flyers and said, like, come to this comedy class, it's free. And I met this dude, Steve Mazon and Gary Cannon there, who are Gary Cannon, who you might have come across and not known. He opens for Byrne a lot, for Steve Byrne. But he's the warm-up comic for, like, Conan, and, like, he's just done a bunch of stuff over the years. And he's just been, like, he's always been, like, a sweet, like, dude that's, like, he had this class. I went to it with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was like, oh, this is never going to work out for me. And he went and just was, like, kind of over it real fast. And I was like, I'm giving up everything. And I was tattooing at the time, making great money. And I had just started within like that year of tattooing, making great money. But it stole my heart. Like from the second of being on stage, having a microphone as the Rambler that you know me as, and now having a microphone, I was like, oh, this is the only art I've ever, like, even though I was good at tattooing and I'm a pretty decent, like, whatever, I can't even say that to someone like you, a decent illustrator. For a young 20-year-old, I was a pretty decent illustrator at that time. And, I just knew when I had the mic and I got the laugh, like I could see the whole craft and knew like, oh, this is the thing that I could master. I could feel like that spirit of like George Carlin that like was inside of me from growing up with it, and just the Jewiness of like how I dealt with life. I knew that like, oh, like you deliver this thing, it comes out of you and then you like serve it up. And I also, being a super hippie, whatever you want to call me, love the idea that like there was no byproduct that was really that negative. I mean, we could split hairs and say like the microphone, the rubber, that comes from trees, but like there was something pure, like prostitution, like that oldest profession. Like someone's paying you for an honest service of who you are and what you got.
Yeah, yeah.
Like and they, they say like the statistic, like men that go to prostitutes, like yeah, they want the sex, but it's the human connection. And like I've known some prostitutes that have told me like dudes come to like they talk. Some dudes don't even have sex with them; they just talk to them, right? Yeah. I've known people in the stripping and the sex industry before, and been friends with a few. And I'm like, oh, it's so stand-up. Like, I love that feeling of like, I don't have to hire a sweatshop full of people and crack the whip and exploit them so that I can make a profit. Like, I can get paid well to make these people come. Laugh, obviously. But like, I was like, I'm gonna make them come. Like, it's this feeling. Like, and so I was obsessed with it. I immediately told the owner of the tattoo shop, like, I discovered stand-up, which from his perspective now in hindsight, I'm like, he must have been like, you little fucking twerp, like you're making great money doing an honest living here, and you think you're going to be like a stand-up star. And so long story short, I was like, no, I have to do this like 5 days a week, if not 7, and I'll work my schedule around it. And I pretty much gave up everything to pursue stand-up. I did that for 12 years. I did some really fun stuff too. I used to open for Ralphie, and yeah, it was great. It's been awesome. Been a great journey. It led me to my new stand-up, real estate.
But it's cool. You know what's cool about it is that it's funny because like I have I have no like grand delusions of doing crazy things with it, except for the fact that I do want to do that at the same time, if that makes sense. Like I'm not expecting a red carpet from roll out for me. Like I know I've got to earn it and I got to work at it. And there's something challenging and fun and exciting about it. And I'm doing it for me. It's something that I enjoy, and it's a way for me to be creative and to kind of get my thoughts out there in a way. And it's very strange. It's like I don't even know how to explain it. I've always enjoyed making people laugh my whole life. Like my favorite thing when I was a kid was hanging out with my parents' friends and just getting them to. There was just one guy, Preston, and almost every time he came to our house, he almost died because he had like breathing issues. He had like breathing problems and stuff, and he'd be like, stop, and I would just go on and on, and I would say the most inappropriate things, and I was like, like if he dies, it's going to be an accomplishment that I'll never forget,
So funny.
And I just it's just amazing. Like it's like when I did the Steve Byrne thing, and I was terrified to bomb, but I was like, I'm not going to bomb. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to be funny. And I went out there in my first time in a real club, and I did really well. I got laughs the whole time. And when I got off that stage, when I went into the back in that green room, I could not stop grinning. It was like the craziest feeling in the world. I just fucking, I killed. I did it. And it was like such a great experience. And it was just like, I got to do that again. Like, it was, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's a different outlet for me where, I spend a lot of my time focusing on my drawing and my painting and everything else. But I'm always alone in my studio with all these crazy thoughts in my mind. And I'm now I get to put those thoughts somewhere. It's kind of therapeutic, It's
beautiful. Well, can I recommend, write down what you love about it, in a simple, concise form on a paper that you'll save, and write down why you think that you're achieving that. So you don't lose focus in that, because I think the difference between you and somebody else that you'd mentioned it's a weird world and whatever else.
Yeah.
Your confidence in it and your ability is you don't need, what is it? The Dire Straits song, one of my favorite songs of my entire life is Walk of Life. But Sultans of Swing is the one I'm thinking of. He's got a daytime job. He's doing all right. He's talking about the guitarist. It's an amazing guitarist, right? Yeah. And that always rings true, dude. It's like, I quit everything to pursue stand-up, and I don't have first of all, I can't stand living in a city, so I don't have the strength and the energy to do any kind of other day job and then give what it takes to be my best at stand-up like that. Yeah. So I would think for someone like you, you're a killer illustrator that has built a career, has people around the world that are reaching out to you for this, and you knowing that you don't need stand-up to put food on the table. You don't need not only stand up. I should broaden this and say, because for me it was all entertainment jobs, writing and acting and all that kind of stuff. So you don't need that stuff to hit your was it Maslow's or Maslow's hierarchy of need? I always mess it up. Somebody's hierarchy of needs to hit the important needs, to be a great husband and father, probably being the most important stuff, and just being a great friend to yourself, right? Those two things or three things. You don't need stand-up to supply you with anything to accomplish those. So just don't let go of that unless you're getting a check for $80,000 and that the next one's going to come up quickly after that, and you'll be able to have a reserve and pay your bills. But keep drawing, keep on drawing in the free world. And then,
I'm not quitting that. I'm not quitting that.
And enjoy the art form. And dude, just don't feel guilty that you're I see Siler up on stage opening up at the so-and-so or headlining the so-and-so and fist bumping Joe Rogan. Keep that. That's still great. And if you get that, awesome. But don't you're not a 20-year-old naive, I'm moving to LA to do it.
Yeah, no.
And that's a benefit. That's probably why you're not afraid to be offensive, which a lot of people, I think people don't even know they're afraid to be offensive nowadays, which is the funniest. I'll talk to friends. I'll be like, I did a podcast the other day. So the newest one that's out is my buddy Matt Cohen. Frigging great dude, actor, just awesome dude. And he's really funny. We recorded, and he was talking about the Tasmanian devil, and he's talking about how they got this weird kind of cancer. I thought he was talking about Tasmanian, indigenous people, right? And he's like, no, talking about the Tasmanian devil. It's oh, all right, great. And he's, I'm doing my really bad Australian accent, having a great time with him. He's Australian, and just having an awesome time. But afterwards, he was like, hey, do you think we were offensive to indigenous people there? And I was like, the fuck are you talking about? We brought them up. Yeah. We have
you can't talk about anything now.
This is what happens. This is what scares me about our society right now. People are so afraid. They've lost sight of humor and priority, right? They're so afraid of being offensive and making someone upset that we mentioned indigenous people and their suffering, that they'd rather not mention and remind the motherfuckers who are going to be listening to podcasts and reading books and hearing this stuff that indigenous people existed before and they suffered. I'm like, do you want them to fucking forget that indigenous people suffered? It's Gerard Carmichael had something he commented in an interview, when he was first getting big. He's pretty huge now. I don't know if you've heard of him. But he's a good friend of mine from back in the day when we were in the trenches of LA comedy. And he's very offensive. He's like a jezelnik, right? Dark comedy. Yeah. Ironically, and he's kind of a dark dude. He's a strong kind of stoic, dark dude like that. But someone said something to him about he has some rape jokes that were silly. And his explanation was anytime someone brings up rape, whether it's in a joke or not, it reminds people that we should be talking about rape. People should be talking about rape. If it's funny or not, you should remember someone's at risk of being raped out there. And we should be more concerned. I'm going to add, I'm definitely paraphrasing, just so you guys know, #paraphrasing here. We should be more concerned about the suffering of indigenous people and remembering that and honoring them then we should be about like, I don't want to offend anyone, so we shouldn't even bring it up. Fuck you. So that that insensitivity from the people who are trying to be oversensitive are going to wreck our entire planet if we let them be the pieces of shit that they are, because they're so weak that we're like, we can't let them drive the bus. And there's so many great comics right now. But dude, my friend sent me a link of some other new comic from somewhere else in the world, and she was on like a late night show, and he's like, is this for real? So bad, so milquetoast, non-offensive, and she was so funky. I normally like avant-garde stuff, but I was like, she's not being even funny. She's just being non-offensive with everything she's saying. And the crowd on cue was laughing at it. I was like, what are you fucking robots laughing at? So thank God for all of the comedians, including yourself, that are pushing it and having the chutzpah, as we say.
Yeah.
To just speak your mind. And shout out to the indigenous people that have suffered. And I apologize that the most bleeding heart morons out there are afraid to even mention you guys and honor you.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Thanks for letting me rant, dude. This is my right. Since I haven't done stand-up very much lately, so I only do rant on my podcast and others' podcasts, and I'm like, I did my stand-up for the month, Mom. I'm good.
But yeah, it's funny. Like I kind of feel like if I'm gonna, I'm definitely not the kind of like writer, comedian, comedy wise, where I want to do the wife came home the other day and blah blah blah. Like that's just so stupid to me. I can't. Like it's just, I've written some stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, this is retarded. I just like get rid of it. It's like this is so weak. It's so lame. But the thing that I'm excited about, that I'm getting into it now. I'm 42, and it's like, dude, I've lived a crazy life. I've got 3 daughters, number 4 in the way. I had a vasectomy. I had a reversal. I had a colonoscopy recently. All these crazy things. I got an insane ex-wife. And I've got it's just like I have like a life to talk about, like, and it's funny going to these open mics, and a lot of the people are like early 20s, and they're up there, and I remember this one guy, he goes, my first open mic I went to, I was very proud of myself. I think I sent you a text because I was like, dude, I didn't bomb. Like I was so excited.
I get the Siler Entertainment News Weekly all the time, dude.
Yeah, I was so excited. I was like, I didn't eat a bag of dicks, dude. I totally did awesome.
Oh, great. I'm proud
but
of you, man.
One of the guys got up there and he's like this young 20. This is the kind of jokes they're doing. He's like, so like, you ever like look at a bird and it's like hopping on the ground and walking around and you're like, dude, you've got wings. Why are you on the ground?
That is pretty funny though, dude. Come on. I don't know that.
See, I did it way funnier.
No, okay, well then steal that guy's book, dude. Tell him, be like, dude, you don't deserve this one. This is for me. No, in all seriousness, I love people that have the acute, dude. Mr. Rogers is like, I would say, one of my biggest heroes of life, dude. Like acute sense of humor like that. If that's truly who you are, but I think that we're breeding a bunch of people who are just not being honest human beings right now in entertainment. So nothing wrong if you have those cute little jokes.
My point is that like I was
talk about the bird's dick. That's what
they're not talking about anything though. They're not talking about any like real topics. There's a few that do, and it's like, okay, you're a comic, like everyone else. You can tell the people that are just afraid to offend everybody the whole time, and I get a kick out of it. I love it. Like.
I've had so many actors on Fantasy House. I've had a handful of them, and they've been the most like comics. At least the comics that I associate with, thank God, are hard on their sleeve, real people. Yeah. But I've had a few actors who are also hard on their sleeve people, but then they're scared to keep their heart on their sleeve publicly, and it's hilarious. I've just noticed a pattern. And if you're an actor and you're listening to this and you're coming up on my show soon, if we have some crossover listeners and guests, I love you and keep doing your stuff. But it is crazy. The film industry is just hilarious right now, and they're so scared to say.
I mean, everybody
say a word that reminds anyone of someone's like. I had a friend that he was doing an impression of JB Smoove, and he's white. He's like, I don't know if we can keep that in there. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, wouldn't you be dishonoring JB Smoove if you were like avoiding doing his? So, anyways, I don't want to get stuck on this because we've got 17 other topics we need to go over while we're here. I gotta go actually. So what else?
Hey, all right, that's true. You got to go, but we have to show you some artwork real quick before we end this. So before we do that,
can I tell you one thing before we go? I just want to say, because I feel like I'm so handicapped in so many ways. I feel like Joel Jimenez, Joel, from Kill Tony. He's one of my best buds, and he's just a stellar dude. We've worked a bunch together, and he's just one of my best friends. Anyways, he keeps me updated because we have the same conversations you and I are having right now, and he's one of the sweetest dudes of all time as well, by the way, who's no holds barred with humor, and will roast the shit out of me the second I pick up the phone or open the door to him. But he is the sweetest dude ever. And he was telling me recently that there's a resurgence because of there's like a backlash to people being so stuck and scared. He said like a lot of the new kids that he's seeing at spots are coming in like really hot now, which almost like to a point where it's like it actually is offensive, but it's just on the fucking note. So go back to, I just wanted to give that perspective in there to say like it's I think cyclical and it's probably going to go back around. So
and I think it's great because it's like, you know, like I think comedy is one of the last like places where you have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You know, don't take that away. You know,
don't take it away from us.
It's supposed to be funny. It's a joke. You know, just relax. It's a joke. You know, you should be able to say whatever you want, I think, you know, and just, you know, anyways.
Let's go over our climate change discussion now. And I've got 3 more hours and then we'll get to.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Jason Seiler here. You may know me for my caricature work and my portrait work for magazines such as Time Magazine, Rolling Stone, The New Yorker, Mad Magazine. I've also had the pleasure of working on Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, working on characters such as the Tweedles, the Red Queen, and the Bandersnatch. And why does any of that matter? Well, if you love drawing and painting and illustration as much as I do, things like caricature, character design, portrait drawing and painting, then I've got a special surprise for y'all. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. You want to know what I'm excited about? I'm excited that I'm going to be going to Israel, for 3 days of workshops this May, the 21st through the 23rd, where I'm going to be teaching my personal techniques about portrait painting and drawing, caricatures, and character design. For me, the most important thing about character design is the foundation of caricature and how you can take that to the next level. I'm also going to have an open portfolio review. Sweet. Oh yeah! Make sure you head on over to www.wonderarthouse.com. What are you waiting for? Reserve your spot today. See you soon, Tel Aviv. I'm coming to hang with you.
All right, so we don't got much time. You got to go, but there was fans that did artwork review, and it was like literally last minute. As you know, I think I sent the message out yesterday, said like a day. So I think we got 8 or 9 or so people that did drawings of you.
Oh, really?
So yeah, this is pretty cool. And so let me know if you see the screen. I'm going to share the screen with you, and we'll take a look at these.
Johnny Cash portrait behind you.
Oh, thank you. I got to finish that, man.
Hi, I'm Joey Cash.
All right. So tell me if you see this.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Oh, dude. What do you think chicks look like in that dimension? I don't know if I want to live in that one. Your boobs, they're so sharp.
Yeah.
Your tuckers, it's so square.
This one is by Dominic Zeilinger, by the way.
Thank you, Zeilinger.
He's an awesome artist from Austria. He's very cool.
That's a lot of A's. Awesome artist from Austria.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Put another shrimp on the barbie. Whoa, dude, I am ugly and avant-garde. Holy shizer. Woo. Oh my God, these are rad, dude. Can I print these? Are you going to send these to me?
Yeah, I'm going to send them to you.
I'm hanging these up in my office.
And then you're going to choose your favorite one, but we'll do that later. And then they're going to get tickets to my workshop in Israel. So this is by Ahai. I'm not sure if I said that right. It's A-H-I.
Ahai?
Ahai?
Ahai, maybe. I don't know. Ahai for me, Ahai for you. Life. It's a life. Oh, dude, that's
cool.
Rad. I look kind of pretentious, but still. I'm wearing that sweatshirt right now.
This is by Michael Crotty. And by the way, someone was asking me what that says on your hat. Do you know what it says?
That's the Chai symbol. So that's it. It's a Jewish symbol. It's a letter. It's a number. But it's the number 18. It's Chai means life. So like when you see that, like a lot of Jewish people have it on their necklace or have a tattoo of it, like younger Jews. Okay. It's like a celebrative life. Like it's like.
Oh, that's awesome.
Life. Like Chai, l'chai. Like when I cheers and I was like l'chaim, it means to life. Like
I see.
The whole experience.
Cool.
I've got
to learn this stuff.
That's rad.
Very cool. This one is by Ori. This is by Ori Levy.
Oh man, that's so cool. I look like I have a good time in that photo. That's Is Ori in Israel? He's like, please give me the ticket. I'm right down the street.
Yeah, I think a lot of these are from Israel. Actually,
smart,
someone wrote me and was like, I think I'm assuming that Shefsky's Jewish. Anyway, he looks like it anyways, or something like that.
I'm a citizen of humanity, folks. But yeah,
it's very funny.
Dude, that's so rad. Whoa, that's cool too. God, look.
This is by
Yakov Smirnoff. It's so funny, dude. I'm going nuts right now. These are so rad.
This is by Kipper Roy.
Oh man, that's so cool.
And again, these were done like in a day, like because it was a very short notice. Normally, I give them
cool
a week.
If it was like if it went up all the way down to my, like it had me with a shirt on, but then naked from the waist down, like just that smile, like
that is what's happening.
Wondering, would you like to bump uglies? I'm very busy, but I could make 35 minutes, and I just smoked a bowl.
This is you looking in a mirror in the morning, but you're not wearing pants. This is just that view from the mirror.
That's a joke I try to play my wife. Oh, dude! Oh, that's so rad. I can't even. That's so. Oh, and he's got the tefillin up on the forehead.
Yeah, what is that? This is the guy that said, "I'm assuming he's Jewish," and he did that. What is that? Oh, this is by Or Weitzman, by the way.
Or Weitzman.
Yeah.
Or it's so rad. So the tefillin's like and when I was in Israel, like they look for, it's like a mitzvah. It's like a good deed to find a Jew and have them do this prayer. It like makes them holy for the day or something like that. I forgot the full explanation, but it's a little box with a leather strap that goes around your head. It's got a prayer scroll wrapped up in it. Jews love scrolls. Like they love it. Like our mezuzahs on the doors. Like when you put them up, that keep the evil spirits out of your house. That has a scroll wrapped up in it with Hebrew, like ancient scripture written on it. It's just to keep you safe. Then there's like a scroll or something. I think, and I could be wrong. I can be out-Jewed very easily. By the way, I stopped after my bar mitzvah, so I can be very easily out-Jewed. But I'm pretty sure there's a prayer in there, and you wrap like a leather thing around your arm. Which, can I tell you a funny story real quick about this?
Yeah.
So we were talking about being Jewish earlier and how serious and literal people take certain stuff. My buddy Kamel and I, he's one of my best friends. He's just one of the coolest dudes. He's a filmmaker, and he's like 4'7", got the best laugh of all time. Like we've been friends forever. We were roommates for like 10 years. His laugh could cure cancer. He's just unreal. So much fun. Him and I just got some ice cream in LA. We're walking down an alleyway off of like La Brea, like right by Sugarfish. And some Hasidic Jewish dude comes over and goes, "Excuse me, could you help me? I need someone to turn on the lights for me. The lights actually got shut off, and I can't do it because on Friday through Saturday night, it's Shabbos, it's Sabbath, and Jews, like religious Jews, can't do any work, including a light switch. But they think, for some odd reason, that God like doesn't notice that they're finding like workarounds to God's laws. Don't ask me. I don't even get it. But I said, sure, yeah, show us. So we walk back down this alleyway. We go to his house. He lives in this beautiful little house. He has a wonderful family, a bunch of kids running around, and a wife. The lights are off. He just asked me, like, it's over there. He can barely even tell me where it is because that would be like him doing it. So he's like kind of nudging. Like, and I'm just thinking, like, you think the supreme being of all creation doesn't know your thoughts and know your wants without linguistics? Long story short, I hit the light. The family, thank you so much. They're all like it's like having a killer set. They all clap for me and they're like, thank you. They're so excited. And he starts explaining to me what that was and what was happening. And Kamel's just standing next to me, like quiet and just watching the whole thing. And I feel so good. And I was like, he's like, thank you for doing this, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's so good and I was like, good for you. I was like, dude, it was a mitzvah for me. And this is after we walk outside, he shuts the door. And I say, it's good for you. Dude, I did it for me, man, just to feel good. Like I was doing something good. So don't even thank me. You're welcome. I'm just happy you guys are happy. And he goes like, you said it's a mitzvah? And I was like, yeah. And he goes like, you're Jewish? And I was like, yeah, but I'm not really religious at all. And he's like, oh God. And he goes pale white and goes like, you're not supposed to. So he freaked out that like he feels like he got a Jew to do something that a Jew's not supposed to do, which is like double bad. And like panicked. And I was like, don't even worry, dude. Like, I'm not religious. And he goes like, but you're not. I was like, dude. And I yell up to the sky. I'm literally in an alleyway dark in LA at the night. And I go like, Lord, if you're listening, if you're going to damn anyone, damn me. These people had no idea. They are innocent. Like it is done. And he literally like closed the door terrified. And Kamel and I walked away going, oh my God. Like I didn't realize that I was screwing this guy over. So yeah, dude, it was an absolute hilarious experience. And that guy, I'm sure, was just like, my family is cursed for 20 years. Why? And I mean, I don't know how people can believe this shit, that God would curse them, like, on his own intentions of not knowing. He didn't know I was Jewish. He didn't damn me to hell, or did he? Am I going to be in eternity in hell after my physical body dies? I don't know.
Is hell a Jewish thing? I don't think it is it?
It depends. I don't know, dude. Like,
I think it was introduced by Christianity.
Some of it's invented. I mean, but if you look at
some of it came from Zoroastrianism and that ancient Persian stuff.
I was going to say, like all evolutions, biological and non, religion evolved, so it's taken stuff from stuff before it. So before Judaism even existed, we stole this stuff from, I don't know, Freemasonry or old religions that we don't even know about. So who knows? Either way, this is a freaking awesome illustration, and my mind's blown. That was a really long thank you.
Here's another one.
Oh, whoa! Dude, that's great, too. Oh, look at the seagull. What's up? Can I get a sip, Doc?
This is by Ete Angel.
Oh, Toda Roba. That's thank you, I believe, in Hebrew. Toda Roba. Thanks a bunch.
Toda Roba.
Yeah, right. I'm butchering it. Whoa, look at that snark.
This is the last one. This is by Ryan Biddle. And he wrote me early this morning. I was like, hey, do I have time? And so he did this like really, really fast to get it in here last minute.
Oh, Biddle. I love it, Biddle. That thing's great, dude. Oh, look at me. Hey, what's up? Hey, you thinking about buying or selling a house? You want to listen to Fantasy House? Hey, anybody got any more beef jerky? I'm chewing on something right now. Dude, I love it, Biddle. I'm full screen. No! Don't do that to people. The multitaskers that were on Pornhub and listening to this are like, no, God!
I don't know. Am I back? You see me?
Look at Johnny. You're back.
I am? Okay, good. It's hard to tell. Cool. So, anyways, that's a lot of fun. So, hey, thank you for everybody that submitted those last-minute drawings. That's pretty awesome.
Thanks. That's freaking awesome.
I'm going to email them to John, and he's going to pick his favorite one, and whoever he picks, you win a ticket to my workshop in Israel. So,
will you call me a communist if I pick all of them equally? I'm just saying. I never want to hurt any artist's feelings by not picking them. Everyone wins. American Idol, you're all wonderful. Careers.
You're gonna have to be a little bit more capitalist on this, unfortunately. But
one gave me the biggest dick.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, man. This was a lot of fun. We talked about like everything, which was great. But before you go, do you have anything to promote? Like, let's talk about your podcast real quick. Everyone should definitely check his podcast out. Listen to the episode that I'm on. It's a fun one, but there's tons of great podcasts. And tell them what it's about a little bit.
You gotta listen to Jason's episode. He talks about his crazy ass ball surgery that definitely made me scared to have any scissors by my nuts.
I forgot we talked about
dude, it's such a good episode, and it blew my mind like how real your story is. So you guys have to look at Jason's episode. So the podcast is called Fantasy House. So it's just spelled Fantasy House. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere where you can get podcasts. And it's even on YouTube. It's not a video podcast, but you can get the audio. So Fantasy House is basically, it's like MTV Cribs in an imaginary like Rick and Morty Adventure Time kind of cartoon world. So every episode I have a different guest come on, and I prep them for the episodes by saying, hey, come up with like the most personal, weirdest, trippiest fantasy house you can think of with inventions of stuff that like appliances that haven't been invented. Like Lindsay Jennings from Suicide Girls, she's a great comedian too. She has a door that you open with like a pimple that she pinches and pops for stress relief. Nate Bird, my buddy who's an albino comedian and just a genius and a hilarious weird dude. I feel like he had like a room that was like a full like light room that you could like set the whole room to be anything you wanted. So you could be floating in the clouds. Some people have like anti-gravity switches or like kitchens that cook you anything, or we had ghost butlers and like just weird goofy stuff. So it's silly, it's raw, but it's also got like a good spirit. It's got like the Mr. Rogers-y spirit of like imagination and joy and stuff like that, but it's raw, so it's really fun. So it's called Fantasy House. Check it out, let me know what you think.
Give him a follow.
Oh yeah,
follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, we're at 47 reviews. We could definitely get to 100 as soon as possible. I'll send you to Tel Aviv for an art conference.
Yeah, there you go. Like and share. People get on with it. So awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, man. And I can't wait to come to LA again sometime to hang out. We'll have to do this again. Thanks for doing it. This is like a last minute too. This whole thing was last minute, so dude, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, so rad.
All right, we'll talk soon, man. All right.
Later, dude.
You want answers? The truth shall set you free! I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!